Vaswani reporting. The Burmese pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been addressing both houses of the British Parliament today in a speech in Westminster. She is the first figure other than heads of state to do so. She is also the first woman from outside the UK and the first citizen of an Asian country to be given the honour. Humphrey Hawksley now reports.
As Aung San Suu Kyi walked into the historic Westminster Hall, there was no question that this was an unprecedented event for the British Parliament, as the political leaders put aside their differences for what they see as a common cause.
Only a few international figures, Charles de Gaulle, Nelson Mandela, Pope Benedict XVI, and Barack Obama, have spoken here. Today, Aung San Suu Kyi will become the first figure other than a head of state, the first woman from abroad, and the first citizen of Asia to do so.
But when she took the stand, she did not hesitate to warn that her country's future was still far from certain.
So many hills remain to be climbed, chasms to be bridged, obstacles to be breached. Our own determination can get us so far. The support of the people of Britain and of peoples around the world can get us so much further.
And there was a need to keep up the momentum.
It is an opportunity for which we have waited many decades. If we do not use this opportunity, if we do not get things right this time around, it may be several decades more before a similar opportunity arises again.
It's been a busy day of meetings, with the Foreign Secretary, William Hague, a key player in Burma's delicate transition, and the planting of a tree at Clarence House, the London home of the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall. Then on to Downing Street, where the Prime Minister showed his surprise at how quickly things were unfolding.
When we met at your house in Rangoon 2 months ago, this visit to Britain was still a fragile hope. And to welcome you here today, after nearly a quarter of a century, is a great moment, a moment few expected and few dared to hope for.
And a message of cautious optimism.
My country has not yet entered the ranks of truly democratic societies, but I am confident that we will get there before too long, with your help. Thank you.
Humphrey Hawksley, BBC News.
Many years under house arrest in Burma. Earlier, she had talks with the Prime Minister David Cameron. Well, let's go over now to central London and speak to the BBC's Naomi Grimley. And Naomi, I wonder if you can outline just how much of an important thing this was for Aung San Suu Kyi to address both houses of Parliament in the place that she did.
Yes, in many ways this was the climax of her visit to the UK because, as you alluded to, it is a very rare honour indeed to address both Houses of Parliament in Westminster Hall. In fact, it's usually an honour reserved for heads of state. So she joins the ranks of people like Barack Obama, Nelson Mandela, the Pope, the Queen and Charles de Gaulle. And it was really rather a clever speech because she wove together her own personal history and links to the UK together with the ancient history of the building behind me. Well, MPs and peers do regard her as something of a heroine. They listened to her in awestruck silence as she explained that Burma now finds itself at a crossroads.
Now, once again, we have an opportunity to re-establish true democracy in Burma. It is an opportunity for which we have waited many decades. If we do not use this opportunity, if we do not get things right this time around, it may be several decades more before a similar opportunity arises again.
Well, today she's had a very busy schedule, as she has on all days during this European tour. In the morning, she met Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall. She then went on to number 10 for talks with David Cameron. She mentioned in her speech, incidentally, that her father, the independence hero, had been to number 10 in 1947, rather. And she also got the rare honour there of being applauded by the Westminster press corps, not something that usually happens. But there is a serious point to this visit. She's hoping that Britain, which is the biggest donor to Burma, will keep up its investment, particularly in the education system. And of course, she still wants the diplomats and journalists and the politicians to keep up the pressure with the current regime when it comes to getting more reforms further down the line.
And Naomi, speaking of the current regime, one of the first questions that David Cameron and Aung San Suu Kyi were asked in their joint news conference was about the invitation for a state visit for the current Burmese President Thein Sein, and what their feelings were about that, whether she agreed that that sort of honour should be bestowed on the Burmese president.
That's right. David Cameron said it was really important to recognise that reforms had been made and that it was important to engage with the current government. And she agreed with that. She said it was important, but nevertheless the pressure did have to keep being applied to make sure that reforms in the future are actually put into the Constitution. They're not just based around one personality in the president.
Naomi Grimley there, watching events from Westminster where it's all been happening today. Thanks very much, Naomi.